So last session we discussed about all the same concept, everything is similar. Only the point is, we will see one more concept, how instead of using these fetch methods, so how to handle this instead of the fetch methods using Ajax, right? So let's see how we can manage with Ajax. JQuery provides a lot of Ajax options, Ajax methods. What is the main point is, whenever you are dealing with fetch, so the major issues with fetch is it returns data in binary format. So you have to parse data into JSON explicitly. Explicitly, we need to convert the data into JSON. We have to parse the data into JSON. So we have to do that. And one more point is, a lot of issues is like error tracking. So error tracking related issues, status tracking. That means is request finished, is request happening. So the status tracking is also a problem. So course issues will come, cross size resource sharing issues will come, cross origin resource sharing issues. That means if request data is coming from some other external source, from other server location, it may block the request. This kind of issues regularly happen. So that is the reason. So you can overcome these issues and make it better. You can overcome the issues and make it better. So with the help of JQuery Ajax methods. JQuery Ajax methods. Actually, jQuery provides a lot of Ajax methods for various types of interactions. So we have .ajax, we have like .getJSON, getJSON. So many other status options like Ajax success, Ajax failure, so Ajax complete, Ajax start. Like this, so many options are there. Ajax failure. So all these are Ajax related, so many methods for handling various status. So what is the key point is, so converting the data into JSON, managing the data into JSON and handling it. And all other security related, right? So how this works, so how this is going to handle, we will see that. Let's create the methods. Concept is same, example is same. So we will do one thing. So let's create one simple request here. Add a new file, some ajax.html. Now in this, the same logic, doc type HTML head title, and so Ajax. in the body section, and we will put some script. Source is coming from node modules, JQuery, this JQuery.js, right? So we are configuring it. Now, in the body section, let's keep some ordered list, unordered list, or some table we have. Or you can generate a card-like option also, but first I will just give a table. Just border as 2 pixel, or we will simply put border as 1 and width some 400. So let's write the script. So one is function, and we need an Ajax call. So it's very simple. So dollar dot Ajax. So Ajax requires the Ajax related options to configure. So what are the Ajax related options to define here? And the Ajax options, first important is URL. What is difference between Ajax and GetJSON is Ajax can able to handle data coming from any file. Data coming from any file, you can fetch it and use it. So JSON is only from JSON. So any file you can manage that. So usually, so when you are making the request, you can deal with any file. Suppose let's take another file, any file like here. We will put a button, and for button, fetch data. And we have a div under it, and the ID is container. Okay. Now we have some document. Suppose some pages like demo page, like home page, some pages are present. We want to fetch data from there, or we want to fetch data from any file. Suppose there is a file help.txt. In this, we are adding some help documentation. That means some paragraph information I am adding. So suppose some paragraph information I copied, and I am keeping that here. This is some help documentation. Now I want this content to display and show in the div on the button click. Then generally what we can do is we can write the event handler here. So $hash. So not required button dot click. So we will use a callback function. And here we will use Ajax. Ajax is expecting some methods, means some properties. First property is method. Method is get, post, put, delete like methods. So get method. Okay, next. So URL from where the data is coming. The file name. Suppose help.txt. If it is present in some other location, you can configure it. Now next important is here how we can define the success methods. That means success indicates a callback function which will execute when the request is successful. If request is successful, it will get the response, and that response can have a lot of details. For example, we have another one, failure. That means we have error. Error is nothing but a callback function. This executes if any error occurred. In fetching the data, if any error occurred, it can handle that. Actually, so here I am defining some XHR, that is error status. I will tell you in the next point we will discuss. Initially, this is the function configured and defined, and that is success. On success, I want to know what this response contains. Temporarily, it is a response object actually. I will just put for just console.log. I will say response. I'm just using that on that. So let's run this and see. And I will open the console before displaying anywhere. I'm using the console. And in the console, we are clicking that fetch data. And you see all the data comes here. That means it is accessing the data from the text document and it is displaying. So this is accessing the response and defining that response. So whatever data comes, so that data, that response data, so can be displayed here. So we need to display inside container.html. In that we need to get the data. So if there is a problem, then it should report the problem. That means we will put an alert saying that so XHR. That means whatever the problem is. Or you can put your own custom messages. Custom message means actually something went wrong, some file not found, such custom options you can configure. Initially, so I defined this. And when I click on this fetch data button, so the data will come here and display. What is the specialty of Ajax is without reloading the complete page, the new details are added to the page. So that improves the performance. Ajax allow actually partial postbacks. Partial postbacks means without loading the entire page, the new details are added into the page. So when I click on fetch data, you can see it gets that and it will display. It will get and display. And when it is fetching the data and displaying, it's not refreshing the page. Any content can come. So any content can come. From any file, the content can come. So it's not only a text document. So it can come from any document. For example, demo.html. So demo.html and click on fetch. In that, whatever content is there, it will come. That means in demo.html, whatever content is present, it can access and display. That means data from another file you can access and display. Here I am writing some help.txt and it should get that and display that information. So you can stay in the page and get the information from another page and display. So that is what Ajax can do. Suppose there is something wrong. When I click on fetch data, then it say object. Object is nothing but this XHR is an error object. In this error object, so many details will come. So many details like status text. Status text indicates what happened. You can see it says not found. We can also put status code. Status code. So that means I am writing here. So XHR or status text. And before the status text here, I am defining here XHR dot status code. So status. It will get the status code. When I click on that, it says 404 not found. You can put a custom message. That means you can say page you requested not found. You can keep some custom message. Then it will get that and display page you requested not found. If it is there, so that means there is no problem. Then it is going to access that and display. So if there is any problem, then this error will fire up and it will access. Ajax method allows you to handle any kind of request. So it is used to handle any kind of request to any file. The content of that particular file will be rendered and generated into the page. Will be generated into the page. This is very important when you are dealing with, when you are working with the asynchronous callbacks. Here, one more important is Ajax have a life cycle actually. Life cycle means several phases will be there. From the point you made a request till the response comes. So it has several phases. What is advantage of that is in every phase it can identify the issues. Generally, suppose when we are using fetch method, if you made a request path problem, then it has to catch the path problem. And after, if path is not problem, server may not be responding properly. Server may be taking some time to respond. It is not immediately responding. It may take some time to respond. So that means server timed out, or you are not authorized to access that file. Such issues will come. That means the problem may be in any phase. Ajax advantage is we can track all the phases and report the problem in every phase. That means we have problem in the request. We have problem in response. We have problem in fetching the data. Every problem it can easily identify. So just what you have to do is when you are using Ajax calls, so after writing the basic JQuery main function, to that main function we can add Ajax related options like Ajax start. Ajax start, it uses a callback function. In this, I am displaying an alert saying that so request Ajax request started. So Ajax request started. Okay. After that, I can add options like Ajax success, and it uses a callback function. So saying, alert saying that Ajax request processed successfully. Request processed successfully. Ajax complete. Ajax complete. This indicates that. So alert. Ajax response completed. Ajax response completed. Now I say Ajax error. Ajax error. Or we have like Ajax stop and function, and we have some callback. So alert saying that so Ajax request ends. Ajax request ends. So if there is any problem, then we have Ajax error, and it uses a callback function, and it says alert, saying that something went wrong. If you want to know what went wrong, you can actually get the XML HTTP request object. This XML HTTP request object will get the request details. That dot status, so we can have status text. It can display that information. If there is any problem, it can do that. These are very important. What is the speciality of this is now you can identify the problem in every phase. When you make a request, then problem occurred, or server processing problem occurred. It is unable to respond, or it is successfully completed, or successfully completed, then it returns okay. If it is processed completed, but before sending response it disconnected, that means you see in any banking application or anywhere, or in general shopping sites when you are making some payments, You will see the status of everything, like payment initiated, payment is processing, please wait, don't push back button, payment successful. After successful, it says that I am redirecting to that another page. It will display that. That means if AJAX request completed, AJAX request and we can redirect to some other location. I will show you. Suppose you see when I click on this fetch button now, then AJAX request started. AJAX request started. So it says AJAX request started. Now when I click OK, now it says that AJAX request processed successfully. Okay, good. After that, AJAX response completed. Okay. After that, request ended. Okay. Then the data comes. There is no order of writing these events actually. I can write this stop event in the beginning, start event at the end. It doesn't matter. Wherever you write, according to the contextual situation, it will work. According to the context, it will work. It's not like first you have to write start, second you have to write complete. There is no order for that. But they will execute in order according to the situation. You don't need to write in order. They will process according to the order and handle it. So this makes the performance better. This makes the performance better. And this makes to identify every process request stage and verify the problems. So this is very important while dealing with designs. Now, you can handle request to any kind of file, but our concept is how we can get the data from a JSON and use the data from the JSON. Let's see. Means APIs. Now APIs are simple. So what you have to do is, so we have to make a request to the API here. So http://fake store API api.com/products. We are making request. And whatever data comes from that, I need to display in the container. Actually, it is returning JSON data. So on success, it will directly return the data in a JSON format. Actually, fetch method is not doing that. Fetch method is not returning the data in JSON format. If it is not returning data in JSON format, fetch is not returning data in JSON format, then we have to convert it to JSON. That is the reason in fetch we have to write two lines. First line, response should convert to JSON. Second line, response should convert to JSON, and in the second line, response should display that data. So we have to handle two situations. But now that looks okay. So you can directly return the data in a JSON form. You can see here when I click on fetch, request started. So and after request started, it has to get response from API. That is the reason it took some time. Previously, the file was present. The file was present in our local location, so it responded immediately. But this time, the data should come from an API. It should make a request to that API. Once the API response comes, then it says processed successfully. Then response is completed and request ends, and the data need to be displayed. But very important is that is JSON type data. We are just displaying in a HTML form. So it is not possible to display the JSON type data in HTML form. So we need to have a good container to display that data, because this is not suitable. This is not suitable for that. So we need to present the data in a better way. So I will put here a table, or you can create your card and all, design and all. Temporarily I will put a table. So border as 1. So width is equal to some 400 or 500. Okay. And in this table, I given some basic details, T head and TR and TH. In that we have some title, and another one is price. Only these two details I am using. In the T body, I need to generate everything. So here we have to write when it is successful. So this is JSON data. So this is the JSON data. You can see that actually console.log data, the data coming from that fake store API products. So I will save this. In the console log, I am just fetching it first. Inspect, and you see in the console, I click on fetch data, request started, and it will take some time. Request processed, you see data comes there in the background, completed. You see all the records are here. Now I want to display that. You know how we can display. To display that, because it is an array of objects, we have to use an iterator, dollar dot each. So data, we read each data with a callback function, and so where this is key and this is the product item, that is the value actually. So here we are writing an simple syntax here. We need to generate a row. In that row, we need to generate a cell. In the cell, so we have to display first cell contains, so item dot title. And in the second cell, so it should contain. In the second cell, it should contain item dot price. Item dot price. And you can see that. And this must be appended. That must be appended to the table body. That means dot append to T body, table body. We are appending into the table body. And you can see, and I click on fetch data, and then started, response completed, and it will get the data and display. So we are using the same concept, but here advantage by default data, it will be in a JSON form. We can just present the data and configure it. We don't need to convert again into the JSON form. Remember, because we haven't learned any server-side integration yet, we are learning only get methods. Later you will learn about the post and put delete like methods. Because currently we are just using existing APIs. So for this existing APIs, we have to just use this get. And post we will try when you are working with the custom APIs and configure. Right. Have I done anything extra here externally? Pavan Kumar. Have I showed you anything externally here? No. Then why you got that doubt? Have I done anything externally here other than JQuery? Anything I externally done other than JQuery? Right. Right? Are Mr. Genius Pavan, which package you are currently using? Which package you are using? What is your question about? Completely nonsense. So we are using directly the Ajax method from jQuery. Why you are asking which package is required for Ajax? If there is any such package, I will tell you. Okay, don't design your own packages, and don't get into such unnecessary doubts. If there is any additional package, I should have told you about that package, right? I think now you are going into very a dummy way of understanding understanding these questions. So keep it in a light way, right? Don't become such a dummy at this level now. You finished your JavaScript, man. Uh, Now you are asking questions like a school kid. Do I need to use JQuery for Ajax? What you are watching now? Keep little bit matured in your questions. Improve. Right. What is the concept we are discussing? Are you sleeping? What is the concept we are discussing? We are discussing the concept of jQuery Ajax. What does that mean? That means we are using jQuery, and in jQuery we are using Ajax calls. Now you are asking in which package it is present. You should not be into such silly things because you are now little bit improved as a developer, right? That is the reason we ask to do the exercises and submit. You people majority are having problem in doing the practical things, and you just have doubts, questions without doing any practical and doing any exercise. That is the reason. You do exercises, practice, then you will have more clarity and you will not get these silly doubts anymore. Okay, right. So first you try to understand what topic you are learning. Right. So here I clearly told you the topic is jQuery Ajax. Now his question is, do I need Ajax? For using Ajax, do I need jQuery? That is the question. Okay, let's see. Now how we can manage the request and handle the request for various other methods. Various other methods you cannot test that here. For that, we need to learn how to design those methods, keeping on the methods and managing the methods for post, put, delete like operations. Currently, we can do it by using the get. Now, the same example, what we have done in shopping, we can replicate that example and we can handle that example with Ajax calls. So instead of using the basic fetch method. So fetch and Ajax, what are the differences I explained? And fetch method and Ajax methods, some advantages of Ajax over the fetch method. But finally, both have to use XML HTTP request object. XML HTTP request object. Either you are using fetch or either you are using Ajax. But fetch is native to JavaScript, Ajax is native to the jQuery. And Ajax have some more features when compared to fetch. The differences. The binary form, explicit JSON, all these things are important for the fetch method that we are using. So Ajax fetch don't have the abilities. Ajax have the abilities. So that's the reason this Ajax is better when compared to the fetch. But Ajax also have certain issues. That is the reason sometimes people depend on third parties. In React, Angular, and other like technologies, they have their own libraries for Ajax, managing and handling their own library for Ajax. Initially, we don't need that, but that is required. So in various other technologies, like Angular JS, it uses a $HTTP. So like Angular, it uses like HTTP client. So like React uses third-party libraries like Axios. So like what WG fetch. So JQuery by default comes with this Ajax. We can use it. There are various techniques of using it actually. We have shorthand techniques. Shorthand techniques are nothing but, so instead of configuring all this, if you know that only the get method is defined, we can use $ajax.get. So ajax.get method, we can configure it. So this get method can directly fetch the data from the URL and it can return the data. There are various techniques, or I told you already, if you have the method of data coming directly from JSON, then you don't need to use $.ajax. You can use get JSON. Get JSON, it will get directly the data. So from which URL you are fetching it. So you have to define it. http://fake store API api.com/products. And this get uses the method then indicates, so what is the callback. Actually, we can use various methods, like, so we have done uses callback function. This callback function gets the data response and it can use that response data, console.log, whatever the data comes as a response. If you have problem, then fail uses the error code. So console.log. So it says something went wrong like this. This is generally using getJSON method. GetJSON must be used only when you are dealing with JSON type of data. So getJSON must be used only when you are dealing with JSON type data. You see the data is coming and it is working fine. GetJSON is also working fine. I'm just displaying in the console, so I have to display inside the table. So if both are same, but the difference is Ajax can make request to any kind of file, but this is only for JSON. If data is coming from JSON, this is the faster way of reading the JSON. Actually, Ajax implicitly converts everything into JSON, but this reads directly only JSON. Any another type is not allowed. We can present the data. That means now we have to use $each. So, and we have to define the data and a function. So the function uses a key value reference, the key and item. And for every item, we need to generate a row and present it. So a row, and in that we have a cell, and in that we need to define. So in that we need to define. So that is item dot title. So title. So, and another cell we have, and their item dot price. So item dot price, and append to, so table body, append to the table body. This is if you are dealing the data directly in a JSON format, and it should fetch that and display here. Fetch, request started, request processed successfully, completed, ended, and data comes here. So depending on the requirement, how you want to fetch and manage the data. This is basically working with Ajax related methods. Now in these Ajax methods, because the Ajax already I told you in the JavaScript itself, about Ajax we will not wait until jQuery. We will learn in JavaScript only, and already we done that. Here additionally what we are learning is various techniques of doing it and various better methods than fetch method. That is the point. Rest of things are same. We don't need anything else. The rest of things are same. So now we can use this for submitting various kind of information, posting the data, configuring the data, and working with APIs in the backend for submitting. For that, we have to learn custom APIs. We will learn in the next levels. So this is how JQuery uses Ajax. Now, this is all JQuery related HTML DOM manipulations. All the list of commands methods I given you in the notes. So append, prepend, before, after, value, attribute, all these are how to use them and manage. Examples are given, various examples. So this is one simple technique of fetching. So these examples also there, but fake store API not there. I will copy these for you. So in the classroom, I will upload these examples also. So I will give here, this is an example for, so Ajax request, and I will copy this. This is one example how we can manage. And with fetch method, how to handle that. That was yesterday's example. So the same shopping cart example we can manage into this. These are two examples that we discussed in the previous and this session. Now, once you are aware of this, Ajax calls how they are made and managed. Now, JQuery, another important is JQuery effects and JQuery UI. In the JQuery UI, you will have this effects combination, jQuery effects and UI. What is the specialty about this jQuery UI is actually jQuery UI is a component library. It is a component library of jQuery. You need to install it additionally. It is similar to Bootstrap. Up to certain stage, it is little bit better than Bootstrap. Up to certain stage, but not every time. Why? Because so Bootstrap also provides some components, but Bootstrap components lot of references we need. For example, if I want an option like collapse, you have seen that collapse is for show and hide the content. Show and hide the content. To show and hide the content, generally, we need collapse in Bootstrap. This collapse in Bootstrap so uses lot of things like div class is equal to collapse. After that, after collapse, we have to say show. We have to put some fade like effects. It should have an ID content. So I said some preview. On button click, we need to manage that. So in that case, we have to define a button. We have to define so data BS target. So we have data BS toggle, data BS toggle. All these things we need to define. So like collapse. Now, if you have seen in Bootstrap, we want to design an accordion. In Bootstrap, we want to design a model. Then a lot of logic we have to configure. A lot of logic we have to define. But here it becomes very simple. Ready-made functions are present. Actually, jQuery core library provides effects, and jQuery UI library provides provides components. So these effects are readily available. We have effects like show. We have effects like slide, hide. We have effect like toggle. We have effect like slide. We have effect like fade. We have effect like slide up. So slide toggle. So we have like slide toggle. All these are fade toggle. All these are all these are various types of effects. jQuery core library will provide everything. You don't need any special library. But for components, you need this UI library. This will work. It's very simple also. So suppose you are watching here. So the list data records are configured and defined here. On button click, so we are displaying the data here. So we are displaying the data. And we are showing the data in a table. So usually, so this table, so we are giving an ID as details. Okay. Now here I can just on button click. So I say, let's put another button there. I will keep another button. So toggle table, that is the button I configure. And you can see when I say toggle table, so that's the toggle table. And what we want here is fetch data, it will get the data. And after that toggle table, it should show and hide this table. Show and hide that table. Generally, if you want to show and hide that table display, so this we will keep this not as a submit button, as a type as button. And on this button click, so I will keep an ID because for every button it will work. So for this button, I will give an ID, fetch. So for this, I will give another ID. And this is button not required, another ID because we are giving ID. Another ID we say hide or say toggle. Now you can see this we have to define hash fetch. So this is the button called fetch. And for one more option we have to define. So hash dollar hash toggle. So that is toggle click. On toggle click, we will use a callback function. What that have to do is dollar hash details. Details is a table. Dot toggle. Toggle is a method. This toggle method, you can see when I click fetch data, it will access the data and display the data. I click on toggle table, it will hide it. Again click it, it will display. We can simply show and hide. We have to just use this one line. Previously, we have to write a lot of bootstrap attributes for showing and hiding. Now we can easily manage that. Actually, you can keep the options like toggle. You can keep the option like show. You can keep like hide. You can keep like fade. You can keep like slide up or slide down. You can add all these animation effects. And not only that, you give toggle and you can even keep the timing. So 3000 milliseconds. Now toggle 3000 milliseconds, then when I click here, so the table will be hidden. And again click, then the table will be displayed there. I click on fetch, it is accessing the data, fetching the data and displaying the data. I click on toggle table, then it will hide the data here. And again click and it will display. Actually, for that, we have to write a lot of logic effects. So, but now we can simply handle that. For this, we don't need any special library. We We can easily manage that by using JQuery core library. With that, we are handling these interactions simply. That is the JQuery core library, which is managing the interactions. So we have the more complex things. That means, so the more complex things like bootstrap like components, like toolbars, dialogues, and all such things. Toolbars, dialogues, all such components and options. What you can do is you can actually get that by using jQuery UI library. For that, you have to install the jQuery UI library. Installing jQuery UI library, we don't have a proper command for package managers because jQuery UI library have a collection of different files. Package manager is not providing a proper package for downloading it. That's the reason jQuery UI. So you have to download separately and add in your project. So we don't have a proper UI for that. So means command for that. Even you have a command, it will partially install jQuery UI, not everything in jQuery UI. That's the reason you have to manually install jQuery UI. Then you can handle more interactions. jQuery UI, how to handle it? What is the specialty? It will make jQuery UI will make your bootstrap like concepts more simplified. Means in bootstrap you have to do a lot of work that is simplified. But unfortunately, everything which is available in bootstrap like is not available in jQuery. That is the reason we need combination of both of them. But which are possible with jQuery, better use jQuery. If they are not possible with jQuery, alternatively you can go with Bootstrap. That's the approach you have to follow. That's very important. So what we need to do now, what we need to configure here is we have to download and install this jQuery library. Let's do that. So let's install the jQuery library. So you have to go to jQuery UI library, jQueryui.com. This is jQuery UI library. In this UI library, right side you can see you have this jQuery UI library. And in this you download the stable version. You download the stable version. You just click on this download stable. So and when you click on download stable, it will download a zip file for you. So this is the zip file downloaded for you. You have to extract that zip file. You have to extract that zip file. Right click and you can extract here. Extract the zip file. And it is extracted. Once it is extracted, all those zip files. And here you can see you have to copy these jQuery files. So jQuery files. So I will copy these files. These are all the files present inside that folder. Copy all of them and come to the project. Our project is web application. So in that, go to node modules. Here add a new folder for jQuery UI. And in that, paste that repository, all the copied ones. Actually, package manager provides a command, but that is not enough. It is not having all the requirements because jQuery UI website provides some additional themes which are not available. That is the reason. Better download this. Once you copy it into your project location, now jQuery UI is ready. In the jQuery UI, lot of things are present. jQuery UI provides interactions. So it provides effects. Effects already we learned. Toggle up, toggle down, Those are effects. It will provide interactions, it will provide effects, and it will also provide widgets. We also call that widgets and components. Widgets are nothing but like gadgets. Gadgets like you have seen your EMI calculator, like gadgets I showed you. You even tried and designed them. So such gadgets are available. Ready-made. Some of the gadgets are available. So third parties, those are all we have to import and use. jQuery interactions, jQuery effects, and widgets, and the components. These are all available in this jQuery UI library. But remember, jQuery UI library will not directly work. It requires jQuery first. First you have to import jQuery and then jQuery UI. Then you can handle these interactions. Interactions are very simple, very simplified interactions. For example, see, suppose I am adding a new file, so UI demo.html, and here I am defining the dot type HTML. So HTML head type. So jQuery UI, and here we are linking that. First, we need a link. Relation is equal to style sheet. Style sheet href is equal to in the modules jQuery UI. We have jQuery UI CSS file. jQuery UI have a separate CSS file. Then script source is equal to from node modules. First, you need jQuery. After that, so another script source. You need node modules jQuery UI, jQuery UI.js. These two are required. And in the body section, now you see I just kept here an image source. So some public assets, some shirt.jpg width some 100 and height some 100 and ID as pic like this. Now you can see that is the image available there. So let's run that. So this is the image available here. We are accessing it. That's the image. Now we need to write a simple logic here. So write a script and a function. And in the function, we are just accessing that hash pic. And I am just using draggable, a method. It is an interaction. Draggable is a method. When I apply this draggable method, this requires this jQuery UI. Just draggable, that's it. And you can see that now I can drag and drop it anywhere I want. That's very simple. For that, actually, in JavaScript, you need to write a lot of JavaScript event binding technique. You need to know JavaScript events, JavaScript event handling. You have to write so many things. But now just only one option, draggable. Suppose I am configuring here. Suppose like resizable. I am defining resizable. You see, automatically it is resizable. I can drag, height, width, and adjust from the corner. I can do that. It's very simple options. So these are actually jQuery interactions. For example, I am creating here an order list item, JavaScript, another list item, HTML, another list item, suppose jQuery, another list item, some CSS, so list item, some bootstrap, like this. And I'm just accessing the ordered list. Dollar, we have an ordered list. And dot, I just given an option. Sortable. I given an option sortable. And you can see now, when I say sortable for ordered list, here, this HTML, I can drag and put at the top. This CSS, I can drag and put after HTML. The bootstrap after this, it's easy to arrange. It's very simple. Actually, jQuery UI, CSS will provide some classes, you can apply them. Just like Bootstrap classes, you have CSS classes. You can go to this JQuery UI CSS file. This is the JQuery UI CSS file. In this C, ready-made classes are there. UI helper. So you see so many are there. UI icons, widget icons, menu, autocomplete, so many buttons are there. So that means you have controls, buttons, control groups. These are classes. Same like Bootstrap classes. You have these classes. So you can apply these classes and you can configure them. When you apply these classes, usually what happens is, so they will have separate effects. For example, you see, so UI icon arrow. UI icon arrow. So southeast, northwest. UI icons arrows are there. You can add various icons options are there. UI icon arrow, east, west, north, south, something like options are available. Suppose I am going to apply this class. That means configure that class. And you see UI icon blank, UI button, you have UI icon. Usually what happens is if I apply those classes, for example, so this is UI button. That means I am putting a class here. So for JavaScript class as UI and UI button. UI button. So that is button like that. This is JavaScript. This is JQuery. You can see those classes here. That's a UI button. UI icons. You can configure. So this type of appearances you can define. So that is suppose UI icon arrow. That is the class. And I am applying that class. Next here. I am applying the class from this UI option I am defining. So UI icon arrow. That means it should get that icon. It needs a combination. So it needs a combination and you have to define that. Now, very important is that is not enough. So you have to remove the ordered list styles. We'll have classes for them also. That means you see here ordered list, unordered list classes. So you have OL, UL related options also. You see unordered list related classes also. These are all the classes related to UI which can make better. But you can use your Bootstrap classes if required and you can configure them. So you don't need to depend on these classes. But here the key point is how they allow easy interactions by using simple methods like sortable, like resizable, like draggable. The advantage is without writing much code. Not only that, even suppose I want to apply like accordion. You know Bootstrap. In Bootstrap to design something like accordion, so much work we have to do. That means you know already in Bootstrap examples. So when we learned about Bootstrap examples, we designed examples like accordion and we have seen how the accordion looks. When we learned about accordion, you saw that lot of options we have to use for accordion in Bootstrap. But in jQuery, what advantage here is, suppose I keep a div and this is having the class or ID as topics. In that, what happens? I created a div. In that, we created a heading. In that heading, I defined as suppose HTML, and I kept a paragraph. So something about HTML, something about HTML. So I designed in this. Suppose I have another top, another div. So in that we have another heading. So here I defined CSS and something about CSS like this. Here in JQuery, the presentation is important. Presentation is important. Now you see generally it looks normal. Now I accessed that dollar hash topics. To these topics I am giving accordion. That is the accordion style I am applying for that topic. And for the topics when you are giving accordion, that accordion is okay. But the content that you display must be that means accordion is enough. But what you need here is the presentation style. You don't need much attributes. You don't need much attributes. But presentation order must be there. That it will arrange everything by itself. Presentation order means, I will tell you. Suppose the presentation order is nothing but under this topic, you want some information. Then simple, what you do is put a heading. Under that heading, you keep the divs. That means you see, you have to keep in this way. Let's keep this first. This is the topic actually. So what we do is this heading we will keep at the top. Okay. Under that we will put a div where we will have something about HTML. Similarly, we will put another heading. Under that we will put a div. So where we will write something about CSS. This is the order. That's it. You have to maintain correct order. And if you maintain correct order under that, so you can see that. So the accordion styles, we have to apply the accordion. So we have to use accordion. So just we need to apply topics dot accordion. And that's it. When you apply that accordion, you can see it's somewhere else. I click on that. You get CSS. It's very simple. Actually, earlier we have to write a lot of things. Get that accordion style. These are jQuery related effects and interactions. This makes jQuery presentations more better. But you don't have an option for everyone. You don't have an option for everyone. Few examples I posted into Classroom. That means you don't have options like Bootstrap, like everything is not there. Good navigation bars, so good apps areas. We don't have such tools. That's the reason we have to depend on Bootstrap and jQuery. These jQuery UI options, no need to explain. You have to learn by yourself now. Go to the jQuery UI website and you see the components here. See so many are there. Accordion, autocomplete, button, all these. But only few are there. Not like Bootstrap. Suppose you want like a spinner or a tabs or a date picker or a button or an accordion, you go to that accordion and it will give you an example. Click on the source and you have to just see what is the function used for it. That's it. And the design style, and it will allow you. These are important. And this is not like somebody teaches you. Nobody will teach you all this. You have to just explore by yourself now because you already know Bootstrap. Once you already know Bootstrap, nobody will teach you all these things. Like you have to do by yourself. That means you have to go to this, see the example and implement. That's it because you already know Bootstrap. And in the Bootstrap, you already know components. Only the point here how these components are configured. That's it. But you cannot completely depend on this also because some are not suitable for our requirements, some are not having according to our requirements. So we need combination. So in jQuery, some more things we have to learn, like widgets, like how to display display grid-like control, how to display filtering like sorting like options. Sorting I just showed you. Filtering, sorting like options. How to handle searching like features inside the data tables. Such things if you can learn, those are third parties. You have to learn. Then we can handle easily all that we will see in our next session. In tomorrow's session, we will discuss some third party JQuery plugins. So how to use them and how to use them. Then we can go into server side integration, how to work with server side. Okay. So tomorrow we will continue.
When?